The Batman has finally hit theaters for audiences to enjoy. I got to see the film twice now. So what I'm going to do here for you guys is giving you my spoiler review for The Batman. I'll be diving into the ending of the movie, breaking it down, pointing out Easter eggs you might have missed, what they could be hinting at for the sequel of The Batman. But really, I'ma also need you Batman fans to give me your spoiler review. What did you think of this version of The Batman? Did you fall in love with it? Did you hate it? What were your favorite moments? What were your least favorite moments? Really anything. I want to hear from you guys down below. And just as a quick plug, I will be posting a ranking video this week for you guys of not only all the Batman movies. In that same video, I'll be ranking who was the better Batman, who had the best Batsuit, the best Batmobile, even all the villains in that one video. So be on the lookout for that, but let's just go ahead and dive into it here. Your final warning, man. Let's talk about The Batman. Alright, so if you were someone who didn't watch my spoiler-free review, just to give you a quick rundown, I absolutely love this movie. I thought Matt Reeves totally understood the character of Batman and gave us one of the best Batman stories ever put on screen. I love what he did with Gotham City, how he really handled the psychology of Batman and the way he chose to reveal elements of his lore. Not only that, the villains in here were also really well done. Riddler knocked it out of the park, as well as Penguin. It was just a movie I was completely captivated with and so in awe by the end of it. I just had to see it again, and I did. So with that said, let's just start with the very beginning, the opening sequence, man. So we have here someone who thinks they're safe and sound in their home, but Riddler was peeping in on your family, man. And then it just turns into a full horror movie here with the Riddler going ahead and attacking this person with that carpenter tool that we know was supposed to come full circle by the end of the movie. So brilliantly handled. But I think that's why I ended up liking this version of the Batman. It's just those horror elements that Matt Reeves threw in there. Being a horror fan, this was like, yeah, I like this incarnation of the Bat world. Once we leave the Riddler doing his thing though, the opening continues and we get some of the best Batman stuff put on screen right here. Is just the fear that this version of Batman brings to his city. Since this movie did not waste any time with origins or telling you every little detail about why this Batman does what he does, they did come out with a prequel novel where I did do an entire video explaining why he chose that at his Batcave, even backstory on Riddler. Really good stuff that I highly recommend you guys check out if you just want to enhance your experience of the Batman. But the monologue that Batman has here, paired up with different criminals just looking up at his signal in the sky and then a dark alleyway, not knowing if Batman is there or not, totally afraid. I'm like, Matt Reeves, you freaking nailed it. And just like that, any hesitations or doubt people had about Robert Pattinson's Batman, they flew away with that opening because you really did set him up as this frightening person. But not only that, the way the carpenting tool that Riddler uses to kill his first victim will come full circle by the end. The entrance of Batman will come full circle by the end of this movie. Matt Reeves really had us all looking like idiots for months saying, vengeance, not knowing it would mean something completely different for Batman by the end of this movie. We'll touch upon that once we get towards the end of the movie. I don't want to get ahead of myself here because then we get Detective Batman. Seeing Batman in a crime scene going ahead and doing a better job at some of the forensic scientists in there was just so awesome to see. He knew that the victim's thumb was cut off while he was still alive because of the wound. Even as he was walking around the crime scene, he was catching things that other people weren't. And that's why you had that one person following Batman like, oh crap, I should have taken a picture of that. I loved how they proved this Batman is intelligent. He's got a brain, down to how Riddler was funny with the damn thumb drive joke. I love Jeffrey Wright's Gordon reaction to that, saying, oh, this guy's hilarious. That's another thing I loved about this movie is the relationship between Batman and Gordon. They really felt like partners in this movie. Through just like one sentence saying, what, we've been working for 2 years and I don't even know who you are, man. Right there, that's all you need to know. We don't need a whole backstory of how you met, why you trust them, why you're working together. We can just dive into the best part of the relationship, and that's them actually working together. I even felt a little sentimental for Batman when he finally gets captured at the precinct and he looks at Gordon and goes, you too, huh? This Batman does not want to show any emotion or love towards another character. We definitely saw that with the way he treats Alfred. I need you to treat Alfred better the next movie, man. I did see some people complain online that they thought this version of Batman was not smart enough because he didn't solve everything completely. Where people were even saying that he wasn't smart because every riddle was solved by someone else. When I'm like, did you not watch the movie? The boy was solving riddles within like 20 seconds. And even him not completely solving some of the riddles or making tiny mistakes, I love that detail Matt Reeves added because this is year 2 Batman. He's not perfect Batman. He's gonna make mistakes. We saw that when he busted out his wingsuit and then fell to the floor. It was little things like that to show you this Batman has room to grow. He still has a lot to learn. And I thought that was a great detail they threw in there. And even when other people gave him extra information on the riddles, they didn't tell him what the riddle meant. He would be like, oh, carpenting tool, that means I should probably do this, this, and this. The police officer didn't tell him, hey, use that under the rug. Or Penguin, when he told him law instead of El Rada, didn't tell him that means URL and to look it up on a website. Batman connected those dots. And speaking on that, let's talk about the Bruce Wayne persona here, because as far as we know, Bruce Wayne to this version of Batman does not exist. But again, I feel to me that leaves this version of Batman room to grow, because as of right now, he only sees himself as Batman. We saw that in the conversations he would have with Alfred, where he says, this is my family's legacy. I don't care what happens to the company. We eventually saw in the movie a very heartfelt moment between Bruce and Alfred, where I really honestly thought for a second they were gonna kill off Alfred in this movie. When he held that bomb and it was about to explode, my hands went to my head and I was like, no. But no, they didn't, thank goodness, and they did let us know this Bruce Wayne does care about Alfred. He just isn't good with showing emotion. I think in the next movie we're for sure going to see an evolution where he realizes, I do need to be Bruce Wayne. I need to make more appearances. So I didn't mind it at all, especially because we got like 90% Batman in this film. Talking about some of the antagonists and villains in this movie for a bit, I thought they handled really well how to connect them all into this one story without making it feel forced. Riddler's twist at the end, where he's actually someone inspired by Batman, seeing a vigilante go out there getting rid of criminals and then him wanting to do the same way with drastic measures, I thought was really interesting and made sense why he made Batman a part of all of this. I was also really surprised with how wacky Paul Dano got in some sequences, like whenever they're going ahead and disarming the bomb, giving off the little riddles. He really went eccentric with it, and it gave off some of those vibes that you would know from Riddler, where he's a little on edge. He's not just plain serious. I even got a chuckle when he would be on his live streams and would be like, hey guys, thanks for the comments and suggestions. It worked for me, especially the bits towards the end when he realizes Batman was not on his side and he didn't want to work with him, and then he just kind of loses his mind. There was also this great shot when the bombs finally go off, letting all the water to Gotham, and you just see him from the window of his prison cell going boom. Matt Reeves' visuals in here just so stunning. Penguin in here was also done really fantastic. Colin Farrell disappears in that prosthetic makeup, and he's also a character they let room to grow for future installments, because there was this like little line whenever Batman goes to the Penguin for the very first time, and then he puts him up against the wall, and Penguin's like, don't you know my reputation? And Batman's like, yeah, don't you? Basically saying all other mob bosses think you're a joke, Penguin, okay? You're the mob boss everyone laughs at, and they even hinted at that with Carmen Falcone when he got arrested making fun of Penguin. I think we're gonna see a really great arc with him in later installments where he becomes this mob boss that's a joke everyone makes fun of, to eventually being a guy with real power and a threatening leader in Gotham. They've already talked about that he's getting his own spin-off show on HBO Max, and that it's actually closer to being filmed than some of these other spin-off shows for the Batman. It's also said to be rated R, so it'll be like Peacemaker and not hold back on stuff. That's something I can't wait to see go down, and that rise of power. They also confirmed that the show will be taking place immediately after the Batman ended of his character trying to take over Gotham. So that'll be the in-between story, so that when we get the Batman 2, Penguin is probably already in charge and the new mob boss leader of Gotham. Catwoman I was also happy with. I say she was a little more tamed back than we know most Catwomans to be. I like that involvement of just wanting to know where her best friend was, and then that surprise reveal that she unzips a bag and her dead body's just right there. Great reveal, Matt Reeves. With her leaving at the end of the movie, I don't think she'll be back for the second film, but she's for sure going to be someone that when they decide to wrap up this trilogy, she'll most likely just end up being the love that Bruce Wayne ends up with, since they love doing that with Batman, him ending up with Catwoman. And there's been talks that she might get a spin-off HBO Max series, and with her going to Bloodhaven, which was an Easter egg, that's where Nightwing likes to go ahead and do his crime fighting, even though I think we're a long way from Nightwing showing up, we could see her going ahead and doing some stuff over there. Alright, but talking a little bit more again about Batman and Bruce Wayne, we gotta talk about that one big reveal they added here to the lore of Batman, and that's when they're talking about his parents, Martha and Thomas Wayne. One, they went ahead and revealed that Thomas Wayne was running for mayor trying to change the city, but this reporter named Elliot, who is a character in the comics, particularly the Hush story, and they did go ahead and literally put the words Hush on screen, so it seems like that's what they're trying to imply there with that, had some dirt on Thomas Wayne's wife, Martha Wayne, that her parents, the Arkhams, which is something something that does happen in one of the Batman comics is that Martha Wayne is actually connected to the Arkhams. So it's great that Matt Reeves is just bringing in so much comic lore. But that Martha's mother went crazy, killed her father and herself, leading to a traumatic childhood where then Batman's mom was in and out of asylums, being mentally ill. I was surprised they did that there. And there's so much to dive in just to that alone. Starting off with Thomas Wayne, from all the trailers and stuff, we all had predicted that maybe they were going to make the Waynes in this movie not so squeaky clean. And while that kind of came true in here, it was more accidental than on purpose. We found out because Falcone and Thomas Wayne have a history where he saved him from dying of a bullet, which is something pulled straight out of The Long Halloween. Great job, Matt Reeves. Thomas Wayne trusted Falcone to maybe just bribe off or scare this reporter to not reveal information about Martha Wayne. When Falcone couldn't, he got the reporter killed. And that might be controversial to some, but I thought they handled that pretty well. Thomas Wayne made a mistake. It was a moment of weakness. He was trying to protect the love of his life, and as soon as he found out that Falcone did that, he was gonna go to the police, and then that same night, they got shot. Even that little aspect, the way they reveal information about that, because you think, oh, so the Falcones killed the Waynes. Great. I hate whenever in Batman movies, they directly connect the killers of Batman's parents to some of the main villains, like they did with the Joker in 1998. But no, Matt Reeves is so smart here, and Alfred goes ahead and says, look, I've investigated it. I wish I could say for sure it was the Falcones, but it could have just been any old thug wanting some money, a random crook that got away and we never found out. That's the real Batman story there. You can choose to believe it was the Falcones if you want, or it could just be a mystery and Batman is left always wanting to get vengeance for his parents' death because he never got to solve that crime right there. I'm glad Matt Reeves didn't make it so definitive and he left the door open. But now talking about the Martha Wayne side of things, what are the implications of making her a mentally ill patient? Was it just so that was the dirt on Thomas Wayne that he didn't want revealed and that's the only thing they'll ever touch upon, or could it be something else, man? I'm gonna have another video in the week talking about what they'll do in the sequel and all the information we know about it, but I'll just leave you with this. In the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, they tried making Bruce and Joker half-brothers. I wonder if that's what they'll do in this incarnation. Maybe Martha Wayne's mental illness passed on to the Joker. So now for the final act that I have been hearing some people complain about. I thought it was done really well. People were confused if the Riddler does know Batman is Bruce Wayne, and no, he was just saying the words Bruce Wayne as the one victim he wanted to get that got away. He doesn't know that Batman is Bruce Wayne, and I liked how Matt Reeves played up that moment that Batman thought he finally got discovered. But we see he set up a plan to go ahead and flood Gotham, essentially cleansing the city, I guess was the metaphor he was going for. And while I admit maybe that wasn't such a strong plot because it seems like the Riddler was upset his plan worked by the end, I was kind of confused on that. It's like, dude, you succeeded. The town is flooded. A ton of people got killed. The only part of your plan that didn't work out is you working with Batman. Maybe that's why he's so upset. But the reason the third act works so well for me is not only because we got some great action scenes, like, oh my god, the action scenes in this movie were fantastic. I didn't even mention the Batmobile scene. Quickly, just that scene paired up with the score in this movie and the way he takes down Penguin. Oh, I can't wait to see more set pieces with that Batmobile in future installments. That thing is a beast. But the way Batman is beating up these Riddler goons, and Matt Reeves was smart enough to go ahead and put it into the story why they wouldn't just fall to their death, having those goons be attached to wire so Batman can just throw them to the side. Like, that's the smart writing I've always wanted to see in other Batman movies. I know it's an annoying complaint to talk about, but I just love when Batman doesn't kill and he has that moral standard, and here it was so damn present. He tells Gordon no guns. He even stops Selina Kyle from almost killing a criminal. Says you don't want to cross that line because then you'll become like them. Showing a Batman that has that moral code and actually following it is just so damn satisfying. Robert Pattinson as Batman shoots up there as a top tier Batman. Just the presence he brings being in that suit and the silence he has looking around knowing he's investigating. Pair that up with the way they built his suit and his movements, they all seem so fluid. The way he's like jumping over rails, turning back and forth, fighting bad guys. I love the fight choreography and the use of his gadgets. Like, I seriously am thinking Robert Pattinson is my new favorite Batman. But towards the end of him fighting these Riddler goons, he eventually gets shot in the chest with a shotgun that I'm sure was super painful, and they were realistic to a point where Batman just could not get up from it. He was in pain. So he pulls out a vial of green liquid. Now, I've seen already tons of fan theories about this. People out there really want it to be Venom. That is the liquid that Bane eventually uses to go ahead and enhance his strength and whatnot, not Venom the symbiote. And while, yeah, maybe it could be, I honestly just think it was adrenaline, guys. I don't think they want to set up Bane so quickly just yet. So I really think it was just adrenaline and a smart tool for Batman to have in his utility belt, but he then starts pummeling the crap out of this one villain. They pull him off. Gordon shows his damaged up face and they ask him, "Who are you?" with him replying, I'm vengeance. And then the silence that happened in my theater and the look Batman gave, I just wanted to stand up and clap and go, Matt Reeves, I see what you did there. This was a coming-of-age tale for Batman where he needed to realize there's a different way to approach fighting in Gotham. The I'm Vengeance line just shows Batman that he's no different than the criminals he's fighting right now. Sure, they actually want to kill people, but they are using a fear tactic to go ahead and get rid of crime in Gotham the same way he was. It's in that exact moment he decides, I need to be a symbol of hope. I need to be a protector, and that's when he goes and protects the people of Gotham, lending out a hand to where you see the people of Gotham don't want to touch your hand. They're afraid of you, Batman. But that little kid from the beginning who lost his father was the first one to step in, leading to the charge of people having confidence in Batman. The use of the Nirvana song, Something in the Way, gave me chills and had my eyes tearing up whenever Batman put down that person he was carrying, and then she grabs onto him. She doesn't want to let go, and the look Batman has to that person's face, this is the first time Batman's ever been seen as a protector. It's a major contrast from the person he saved at the very beginning of the movie. That man who was getting beat up by the white painted thugs, Batman just saved him, and the first thing he says was, please don't hurt me. To then see that go full circle towards the end of the movie, that someone doesn't want to let go of Batman because they trust him that much, oh man, Matt Reeves, do Batman movies forever, please. That's why I'm super excited to see this Batman grow, because they showed us he's already really good at his job, but he's not perfect at it. I'm gonna be curious to see the time jump that happens after this movie and how he's changed for Gotham. Do people like him now? Does he go ahead and hand candy off to little kids like he sometimes does in the comics? But okay, the thing most of us want to talk about now is that big tease at the end of the movie for what they could do with the sequel. We find the Riddler realizing that Gotham's gonna rebuild and he didn't do much to change things. A cellmate next to him pops into frame, and the movie does a good job of kind of hiding him but revealing him a little bit. It's Barry Keoghan who's going to be playing the Joker. I know some people were thinking it was Two-Face just because it seemed like he had a bit of a scarred up face, but no, he mentioned the word clown, and that laugh of his, I mean, you could see what they were trying to do there. By the way, I like his laugh. This is like the millionth Joker. You know how hard it is to find a distinct different laugh? Pretty soon, we're gonna have a Seth Rogen Joker. But to me, I instantly recognize what kind of look they were going for with this version of Joker. They're gonna go with a new 52 look for Joker, where he has the shaved head and just the hair on top, and that Joker as well also has some scarrings on his face. Whether they use storylines from that version of the Joker or not, we'll have to wait and see in the future, but it seems like they are going to be comic accurate, and that this version of the Joker did fall in a vat of toxic chemicals. That would probably explain his scars, pale skin, and green hair. And if they follow the comic storyline very well, he was just a petty thug working for the Red Hood gang. It could have been someone Batman beat up and then sent to prison early on, not knowing he accidentally created a monster. But him calling the Riddler a friend and wanting to work with him, I'm like, are they setting up an Arkham Asylum storyline like in Arkham City or Nomad's Land? I feel like that's what Matt Reeves is setting up here. I mean, the Joker is making friends in Arkham, having little connections. Yo, that would be an endgame of a movie if the third or fourth film, they finally introduce the Joker and he's got Riddler by his side, Mr. Freeze, whoever else is in that prison. That's honestly what made me more excited, is that this Joker called him a friend and that they kept Riddler alive. Especially since this movie didn't have an end credit or a post credit scene, just the words goodbye with a question mark. It's like, oh, Riddler will eventually be back in one way, shape, or form. Not the next movie, but somewhere else down the line. But putting that aside, I know there's some people kind of upset or bothered that they're gonna do the Joker again, but let me tell you, I don't think he'll be the main villain of the next movie. I think he'll be a setup that continues on until like the third film. Think of it the way they teased Thanos at the end of the first Avenger movie. He didn't become the main villain of Age of Ultron, and I feel like that's the same thing they're doing here, is just setting him up, letting you know he's out there, and he'll be someone maybe sprinkled and teased until he finally gets his own movie on the third or maybe fourth film. I hope the next movie is Mr. Freeze, but I guess we'll wait and see on that. But that is just my spoiler review with the Batman, guys. I am going to be making a separate video where I talk about everything that they will be doing in the sequel. This video would be way too long if I talked everything in detail that they were setting up for sequels. So look out for that video later this weekend, as well as my ranking of all stuff Batman. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.